Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be talking about the call to prayer or adhan, sometimes pronounced azan. The call to prayer has been problematic in many parts of the world. In the West, sometimes it was also a topic of a debate. Like in Canada a couple of years ago, the government allowed the call to prayer for just one day. I mean, so many people don't mind it. Some people they hate it. Some people they love it, especially if they are Muslims, of course. Now the difference, the problem is the what the government of Canada or people in general they don't know. The call to prayer in Canada can be very subtle because the loudspeaker is on the inside, just like a church. The loudspeakers are in on the inside, and when the government allow it, they didn't blast it. They only use a very low volume. And some people who don't know Islam at all, when they hear the call to prayer, they will say, "Wow, that's so beautiful." But that's because they don't know anything and they're very ignorant in that matter. If you have been to Malaysia or Indonesia, Indonesia is a country that has 800,000 mosques. Yes, you heard me right. 800,000 mosques. 800,000 masjid. Imagine. When it comes to the call to prayer, it's not like they all start at the same exact time. Sometimes they're off by 1 second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds or 5 seconds or 4 seconds. Imagine in Indonesia, if you are surrounded by four mosques, one in the front, one in the back, one in some in on the right or left. The one on the left, they started like 1 second ago. The one in the back of your house started 3 seconds ago. The one on your right side started like 5 seconds ago, and the one across from your house is, let's say, 7 seconds ago. Can you imagine how annoying it is? And the speakers they use is on the outside, so the speakers are on the outside of the mosque. So even the sermons you can hear it, whether you want it or not. Sometimes, sometimes you just like most of the sermons are very silly in Indonesia. The topic is very silly, and sometimes they just talk about people from different religion, how they will all go to hell, yada yada yada. So you're like, ugh. First the call to prayer is annoying, and then the sermon is even more annoying. So it's and again you have no choice but to hear it because the speakers are on the outside. It's like multiple speakers, and the speakers are. It's not like they are good quality speakers either. So the noise is not doesn't sound good. Well, noise doesn't sound good, but sounds very bad. It's very annoying. But before I go on about this, I want to show you the sources in Quran and Hadith regarding the call to prayer. Let's go to Surah Al-Jumu'ah, verse 9. O you who have believed, when the adhan is called for the prayer on the day of Jumu'ah or Friday, then proceed to the remembrance of Allah and live through it. That is better for you if you only knew. The verse is very clear. You have to leave whatever you're doing and answer the call of to prayer, no matter what. But the verse is talking about Friday only. So this verse is not talking about what about Thursday morning, Friday night, or Sunday noon, afternoon. No, only Jumu'ah on Friday. And, Now we can check Sunan An-Nasai regarding the call to prayer. Sunan Nasai, hadith number 626, Nafi narrated that Abdullah ibn Umar used to say, when the Muslims arrived in Al-Madinah, they used to gather and try to figure out the time for prayer. And no one gave the call to prayer. One day they spoke about that. Some of them said, let us use a bell like the Christians do. Others said, no, a horn like the Jews have. Umar said, why don't you send a man to announce the time of prayer? The messenger of Allah said, O Bilal, get up and give the call to prayer. As you can see, how Umar shaping Islam. So this hadith, of course, has a few problems here. You can see the stupidity of the people here. Some of them, they wanted to use a bell like the Christians do. Can you imagine the confusion? If because some churches like Catholic churches, they use bells and Orthodox too, right? Can you imagine the confusion if Muslims also using a bell? You don't know that's the bell from crazy. And then look at the ignorance of these Muslims, some of the Muslims here. No, a horn like the Jews have. Well, the Jews using horn only on certain days. Regular days, their call to prayer is very subtle and only on the inside of the synagogue. They have like something like called Barihu or something like that, but very subtle, and you don't they don't have I don't think they have loudspeakers on the outside. So even in Israel, you will not hear Jewish call to prayer, even though they do have, which I will show you later. Now, the messenger of Allah asked Bilal to give the call to prayer, the slave of Abu Bakr. That's why. Now, Bilal did not use loudspeaker, that's for sure. Because loudspeakers are taking it to different level. It's very, very annoying. That is why even Saudi Arabia, even Muslims, they are annoyed by the call to prayer. Saudi Arabia restricts loudspeakers to four to make prayer calls in all mosques across the kingdom. And look at this. Speakers must not exceed a third of their maximum volume. Right? Because they are annoyed by it. However, a couple of years ago in Indonesia, there was a case when a Buddhist woman complained about it. A Chinese Indonesian woman of a Buddhist faith sentenced to a year and a half in prison for complaining about the volume of azan that was blasted from a speaker from a mosque near her house. Mailiana, 44, a resident of Tanjung Balai, North Sumatra, was found guilty of blasphemy. So she complained about the loudspeaker. She asked the loudspeaker to be the volume to be lowered a little bit. But instead of that, they got mad. Let us read, you know, continue reading the news here. She was one of the first people to have been sentenced to prison for complaining about the volume of a mosque speakers. She was reported to have said the azan was too loud and hurt her ears, and asked a neighbor to lower the speaker's volume. Look at this. Her remark, made in 2016, is believed to have triggered the worst anti-Chinese riot in the country since 1998, with Muslims who claim to have been offended by her words, burning several Buddhist temples. Can you imagine? She complained about it. They put her in jail for a year and a half, and they burned several Buddhist temples. Let's read a little more. The police arrested 19 people for their role in riot, 8 charged with looting, 9 with malicious destruction of property, and 2 with inciting violence. All were given 1 to 4 months jail sentences. She was complaining about the azan, the loudspeaker, and a year and a half. And these people burning. Look at this. They burn even, they burn Buddha statues. They destroyed prayer equipments, Buddha statues, tables, chairs, lamps, several cars and motorbikes. Can you imagine the justice? This from the people of religion of peace. I don't know how to spell peace sometimes. I'm pretty sure it's not this. I think it's different. This not this. I think it's something like this. I forgot the second letter. Go like this. Maybe go like this. Anyway, so there's the problem in Indonesia. I mean, I have to remind you, so many Muslims in Indonesia are very good people. They're good people. But however, the government are afraid of this. Some of them that is very fanatical, you know, fundamentalist Muslims are very, they're very rampant. They're crazy. In Indonesia is almost there's no government is like afraid of them. So they don't criticize Islam or Muslims because they're afraid of losing votes or losing popularity. Now, like I said, uh, Christianity has the call to prayer. I mean, usually they use the bell just to remind people what time it is, 12 o'clock. But usually the bells is only during the day. I mean, you don't really hear a bell like 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning. I don't know, in a small town somewhere, but I really, really doubt it. In Israel, Jewish people, they don't really have this call to prayer. I mean, they do have a call to prayer, but they don't announce it on top of their lungs using loudspeakers. I can show you once. There was a guy doing call to prayer, Shema Israel, using speakers. But this is not the practice they do daily, right? Let me show you the video. I will show you for a couple of seconds. I don't want problem with the copyright. Shema Israel. There you go, Shema Israel. Now, they don't really do this because even though the majority is Jews, but some Jews are old, some Jews are sick, some Jews are babies. They understand they don't want to wake them up, or if people are sick, or some people they work night shift, or that you don't want to wake people up. Just anyone, right? Because not all Jews go to the prayer. And in modern times, again, thanks to the Kufar, they invented alarm clock. Yes, alarm clock. And thanks to the Kufar, they invented a technology that allows us to know when is the sunset and sunrise every day for the next, I don't know, how many days ahead. So when is the sunset next week, Tuesday, or sunrise next week on Wednesday. And then people can just use alarm clock to get up, to go to pray. It's very simple. So there's no need, you know, especially loudspeaker. I mean, like Again, loudspeaker is also made by Kufar, probably Chinese too, And some of the loudspeaker is not a good quality, like I said, it's very bad. They use, I don't know, and they use multiple loudspeakers. And Bilal at the time did not use loudspeaker. Just I want to remind, if you are Muslim listening to this, during the time of Muhammad, there was no loudspeaker. I understand the sentiment. Oh, we have to hold the tradition, but the tradition now they use loudspeakers. Whereas in the time of Muhammad, there was no loudspeaker, so the call to prayer is a little bit subtle. And then the mosque is not like in Indonesia, 800,000 mosque. What are you gonna do with this? You know, it should be just one mosque doing it if it's with loudspeaker. Now, I want to show how in Indonesia, a Muslim majority country, I want to show you this. It is in Indonesian. In Indonesian, yes, I do understand most of you don't understand what it's saying, but this talking about the house process near the mosque. And probably you'll be surprised. Actually, the house process near mosque, the closer it is to a mosque, the cheaper it is in Indonesia. I don't know in Malaysia. I don't know how it is in Canada, but in Indonesia, it gets cheaper. The closer it is to mosque. Like this guy here, the first one, I will read it in Indonesian, then I will give you the literal translation. Kenapa rumah dekat masjid harganya anjlok? Why house near mosque the price is dropped? Yep. And in his video, actually, he talks about how some banks refuse to give you a mortgage. This one here. And this, the first one here, also talk about that. The first guy here on the top, he also talk about even Sharia bank sometimes giving you hard time and not giving you a loan or a mortgage. Sharia bank. Because why? It's too close to mosque. And this guy is wondering why the price is cheap. And some guy answered here, because of the noise, that's why it's cheap. Imagine this Indonesia. Indonesia is a country full of surprises. So this the problem in Indonesia. The loudspeakers and people they don't like it. I mean, even the majority Muslims, not Muslims, like I said, when I show you this Saudi Arabia, the article in Saudi about Saudi Arabia, and because many Muslims are also annoyed by it, they don't say anything, you know, because they don't want to go to jail or get killed. Anyway, in my opinion, there are a couple of problems here, right? Like I said, I mentioned earlier, Bilal did not use loudspeakers. Again, I do understand the sentiments of keeping the tradition. But Bilal was the only person who did call to prayer. Nobody else. So it's not like there are 200 people doing call to prayer. Using loudspeaker. Nope, not like that. And with the invention of the kufar, right? We know when the sun gonna rise tomorrow. So and then you can set up your alarm clock. If you don't have alarm clock, you can use your cell phone. They have alarm clock in the phone, right? You can use to wake you up So there's no need for the call to prayer. Should be abolished. In modern time, we don't need it anymore. During the time of Prophet Muhammad, I do understand. Okay, no problem. Because people getting up different times, because there's no alarm clock at the time. But this time of, in modern days, come on. Do we really need the call to prayer still? Even in Israel, they don't use call to prayer. The Jews, they don't do it. Even the Christians in majority Christian countries, they don't do it anymore. I mean, well, they never did, but you don't really hear the church making noise, calling people. That is what is you know. Only Islam is like insist to keep it. I don't know why. To annoy. Anyway, that's all from me. Something to think about. That's all from me for tonight. Thank you for listening. Whether you're Muslim, a Buddhist, or a Christian, God bless you all. Have a nice life.